Masithandaze. Almighty God, where you have called us to govern this province, we ask your help to make decisions and laws that will be just and will promote the interests of the people. Almachtige God, ons bid dat u gedrende ons vergadrings. Ons dienodege wysheid sal gee en ons motiewe suiwer sal hou. En dat u ons sal help om ons tekortkominge te oorkom en al ons besluite aan u op te dra. Sigelela Nkosi ilizwe lethu nabantu balo. Umisele ukulunga kwiphondo lethu. Nkosi sigelela iAfrika. Gcina abantwana bayo. Khokhela Nkosi inkokheli zayo. Yinike uxolo Nkosi iAfrika. All this we beg in your most holy name. Amen. May we all be seated. All right. Good morning, honorable members. Honorable, the leader of the opposition.
Speaker, it's an order point, which I'd just like to get clarity on whether you would be able to assist. But we notice on the order paper and the list of speakers for the day that in comparison to yesterday when the tradition of previous years was once again established yesterday by having the chairperson of the standing committee speaking immediately after the MEC, that appears to have been changed. I would just like to ask if you could clarify to us why that change has actually been made, because in our caucus we've been briefed very specifically on the order being, was it possibly because the DA is concerned that they would actually want the opportunity to respond to our shadow MEC because they were concerned at the issues raised. What is this? Because this actually goes against the tradition that has been developed in the House as to how we manage the issue of the adjustment appropriations.
Thank you, honourable member. Order, honourable members. Order. Thank you, honourable, the leader of the opposition. Honourable members, I want to recognize the Chief Whip at this point. The Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is no rule governing exactly in which order the speakers should speak. It is, however, the minister responsible for the vote at the beginning and at the end with unlimited speaking time. It is then the parties. Yesterday's speaking list was then a DA speaker, then an ANC, then an EFF, etc. And I determined that it would be better to have a split between. So instead of having two consecutive DA speakers, to then have a member of the official opposition in between the two.
Okay. Thank you, Honourable Chief Whip. Thank you, Honourable Chief Whip. Who else is Honourable Mayor? Are you indicating? Is there a point of order?
Honourable Speaker, I just wanted to welcome Honourable Member Lily back to the House.
That's not a point of order. Honourable, the leader of the opposition.
Yeah, thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the reality is that such a fundamental change from a convention which has been established would surely need to be discussed by the programming committee. What we have, could the Chief, through you, Speaker, could we receive an indication as to whether this matter has been,
honourable members,
this matter has been discussed at the programming authority?
All right. Thank you, Honourable, the leader of the opposition. Chief Whip.
Thank you. It is the Chief Whip's prerogative, and I've determined it so. Also, the order paper was, the speaking list was sent out yesterday on time, and there was no objection received at that stage. And so now, at the beginning of the sitting, is certainly not the time to raise it.
Honorable members, can please the programming authority deal with this matter in their earliest meeting, in their earliest opportunity. Let us not hold the House at ransom on these matters. It's not good. So the clarity must be sought at that stage, and I take the point raised by the Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition. So the fact that the issue is raised here, now I'm directing it to be brought to the Programming Authority and that it be dealt at that level. Are we all in order? So this is the finality to this matter, on this matter, and that we need to proceed. Welcome, Honorable Premier. And honorable members that have just joined us, welcome. May we now proceed?
Chair, could I just obtain clarity then? Yes. That we should stick with the convention of yesterday, because if that is not your ruling, then I would request that the House adjourns now and the program committee discusses this matter. This is a fundamental breach when an issue like this is not discussed at the program committee and a unilateral change is made by the chief. If we allow this, so I would request that the House adjourns and that the programming authority meets.
On a point of order, Mr. Speaker, this is not a point of order. Every speaker's list is determined on its individual basis. There has never ever been an issue of this convention and that convention. Every debate is determined individually, and there's never been a question of speakers' lists and order of speakers for particular debates to have gone to the programming authority ever. So this, in fact, what the Leader of the Opposition is requesting is a break in convention.
All right, honorable members, I'm going to request that my table staff briefs the speaker in this regard. Then I need 5 minutes break. Thank you. Let's go to...
Speaker.
You may all be seated. Welcome back again, honorable members. I have consulted with my table staff. I have the following to say. In terms of Rule 53, which I will go through it now. Subsection 1 and 2. In a debate, the presiding officer must call on members to speak in accordance with the list of members who are to speak, and in accordance with the times allocated in that list for speeches by those members. When a member rises to speak, he or she must be acknowledged by the presiding officer, and if 2 or more members rise at the same time, the member who is acknowledging is entitled to speak. Basically, this is the only rule closer to what we are dealing with. The only rule. And also, rule number 4. If there is a convention and there's an absence in the rules on what the convention is, the convention takes precedence. But if there is a convention, but there is a rule on the same convention, the rule takes precedence. And that's the rules that we have. So if there is a matter that the honorable members feel uncomfortable about in terms of the rules, it must be brought to the Rules Committee. Currently, we've got a matter that is relating to the Programming Authority. I asked the question to the team whether this matter was brought to all parties, and I got the feedback that it was circulated by email yesterday, and that there was no objection to what was shared with political parties, as is the norm when the chief whip or the Programming Authority deals with matters of programming. Now, what we are presented with is the speaker's list before me, which I need to follow in terms of the normal rule, as Rule 53 says. The speaker does not interfere with the speaker's list. I'm going to request again to the leader of the opposition that this matter must please be debated there. If you want to change the rules, it must be brought to the Rules Committee so that in future we agree on what the rule should say in terms of the speaker's list. And that then closes the matter. And I don't wish to debate it further because I want us to proceed. Please. Clarity. Honorable, the leader of the opposition.
Thank you. It's actually an order point seeking clarity. I would just like to clarify that in your discussions, Speaker, did you confirm that the suggested change in the convention was never discussed at the Programming Authority? Because it's one matter to release an email,
A point of
but
order.
the issue is, I want to ask whether it is
Order,
correct,
honorable members.
that the change compared to yesterday was actually discussed in a Programming Authority meeting or not. Because this is the first opportunity to formally object when we are sitting today in the House with an order like this. So this is the objection that we've made today. I would like to clarify, in your discussions, did you confirm that this matter and the order was discussed and agreed to in a Programming Committee?
Thank you, Honorable, the leader of the opposition. I recognize Honorable Murray, and then I'll come to the leader, to the chief whip.
Speaker, I plead for sanity in this issue. Precedence becomes law, becomes a rule. In the highest courts, there's always similar cases which are referred to and what the decision was. In this case, you will be that presiding judge. And I think we are setting a dangerous precedent when we can hop and skip for strategic purposes to get a strategic advantage on a debate, because there's obviously a strategic advantage to the DA now to have the list the way it is like this. Because you put somebody to speak after the leader of the opposition, which can then unleash venom on him, which wouldn't have been the case if it was the way before. So it's a political decision, and that political...
Thank you, Honorable Murray.
I just ask you, sir, to take...
Your point has been raised and we have recorded that.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Chief Whip?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The convention, in fact, is that the minister speaks and then the official opposition speaks. So, in fact, what we have here is more in line with convention than what it was yesterday. And we have countless examples of where a minister...
Order.
For example, after the State of the Province address, in the debate, the leader of the opposition is first. So, therefore, speaks after the Premier. Therefore, what we're doing here is absolutely not against convention. So the rhetoric in the House is incorrect, and I would like to correct that. Also, what is the big deal?
Order, honourable members.
A DA minister, followed by the official opposition, followed by a DA speaker, followed by a member of the EFF, then Good, then ACDP, then Freedom Front Plus, then Al Jamar, and the minister to close. Every party has been afforded the number of minutes as agreed to in the Programming Authority and in the Rules Committee. No one is being denied the opportunity to speak, and no one's time has been reduced. This is making politics for the sake of politics.
Thank you, Chief Whip. Order, honourable members. Order, honourable members. Order. We must try and work together here. I've made my ruling. I gave an account of what rules that are before me say. And I tried to afford the House to proceed with its business as the presiding officer. I'm going to give the last two speakers to raise the issues they want to raise on whatever point of orders you want to rise on. There's no debate now. This is not a debate. The next debate is the order of the day. The Chief Whip of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, Mr. Speaker, when there are changes in any nature, an email is circulated to all. And there must be a sentence that says amendments to the previous order paper. Now, yesterday at 12:28, we received an email from Ms. Belinda Sickle, which reads, "Dear members, kindly find the speakers list for tomorrow's sitting." And in it, there are changes. Now, the order paper that we printed before is what we have. The order paper that we have today has changes. Now,
Point of order,
for
that is
such,
incorrect. That is incorrect. The order paper
Chief
has
Whip,
not changed.
will you please take
The
your
order
seat?
paper has not changed.
Chief Whip, please take your seat. When order, honourable members, when let us allow the Chief Whip of the Opposition to conclude, and then there will be responses if there are from the Chief Whip.
thank you.
Please.
Thank you, Speaker. Now, it is disingenuous that one will circulate an email like this, whereas there has been an email that was circulated with no changes. Now, in any event where there are changes, That must be cited. Now, today we find ourselves debating something that should have been clearly illustrated on the email that we received yesterday at 28 minutes past 12, sent by Belinda Sickle. Now, for now, Chair, I've heard you've made a ruling, but the fact remains the changes were never discussed and were never even indicated on the email that there are changes to the previous order paper that was sent. That is disingenuous. So, really, Chair, in as much as there was no email sent, because there's no need to send an email when something wrong has been done, because it was disingenuous to begin with. So, Chair, in as much as you have made your ruling, it still remains that those changes were effected without any proper consultation. There was nothing wrong for the Chief Whip to say to me, we are intending to change this. As it was yesterday, one of the members who was scheduled to speak here, there were changes. And she informed me and I was okay with it. Now for this one, for some reasons or the other, there was no indication whatsoever to say we are changing the order paper as per the previous that was circulated. I thank you.
Thank you, Chief Whip. Chief Whip?
Mr. Speaker, the Chief Whip of the Opposition is the one that is being disingenuous. There has been no change to the order paper. The order paper that was circulated has not changed. The Speaker's list was not circulated previously and then changed and no one was informed. No, the Speaker's list was circulated. And each Speaker's list is determined on its own merit. You can't say because yesterday we debated social development, today we're now changing social development's debate. No. Each debate is on its own merit. We have not changed any of the speakers as the parties has given through to us. We have taken those parties' speakers and their speaking time and we have allocated it to a speaker's list. We have followed this particular format countless times and so I really don't understand what the storm in a teacup is all about.
Thank you, Chief Whip. I recognize Honorable Minister Fernandez.
Honourable Speaker and honourable members, I think in terms of the rules, once the Speaker as the presiding officer has made a ruling and you had indicated that this matter will go to programming, I don't know the merits to the changes, but I don't think it's appropriate in terms of the rules after a ruling has been made to engage in further debate on that matter. So I would like to propose that we continue with the business of the day and that this matter be dealt with in programming. And it is contained in the rules.
Thank you, honourable members. Order, honourable members. Order, honourable members. What we are doing now, honourable members, order. I have made the ruling. What I'm simply doing is to ensure that the Chief Whips, the whippery, does what the whippery should do. So let us now leave this out of the hands of the Speaker because I've made the ruling as to what we're going to be doing. Honorable Fernandez is correct, but I simply wanted to make sure that the whipper is assisting in terms of how we should move forward. Now, honorable members, I would like to ask the Secretary to read the order of the day.
Vote for Community Safety, Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill.
Honorable members, I recognize the Minister of Community Safety, Minister Fritz.
Samlongo, Bolo, Oweni. Good morning, Honorable Speaker, Deputy Speaker, Honorable Premier,
Cabinet colleagues, Honourable Leader of the Opposition, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Members of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, yeah, exactly what it means, citizens of the Western Cape. The adjustment budget comes at a time when the DA-led Western Cape government is putting in place the final pieces of a safety plan that will change the fabric of our society. And it will indeed change the fabric, Mr. Speaker, to Honourable Low, the opposite me. While the ANC pays lip service to the intrinsic needs of all humans to feel safe and encourages its allies to make this province ungovernable, this DA-led government will ensure that over the next 10 years, we deal decisively with the challenges of making this province safer for all who lives in it. We stand by a very noble dictum that you don't play political games with the people's lives. You don't use the lives of people to score cheap political points. Rather, you mobilize the human need of all people to feel safe by pooling the resources of the state to fight against criminality. Under the leadership of Premier Wendy, this government is hard at work putting in place the measure to reduce the murder rate by half over the next 10 years. Honourable Speaker, on the 26th of November, Minister Maynier tabled a medium-term budget policy statement and the 2019 adjusted estimates of the provincial revenue and expenditure in the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. As with all other departments across government, my department has had to execute its mandate within an increasingly constrained economic environment. And let me remind the House that the austerity measures in place are there because of the criminal mismanagement and destruction of the economy by the ANC through the endemic corruption and state capture. Hulle het alles gesteel. But despite these budgetary constraints, I welcome the MTBPS and the adjustment budget as it breathes life into the Premier's safety plan. In support of building safer and cohesive communities in the province, an additional 130 million has been...
Honourable members.
Yeah.
Please
An
proceed,
additional
Minister.
130 million. Can I speak?
Please
Mr.
proceed.
Speaker? This man
Order,
is-
honourable members. Please proceed, Honourable Minister.
So in support of building safer and cohesive communities in this province, an additional 130 million has been allocated in the 2019-2020 financial year for the Law Enforcement Advancement Plan, and also called LEAP, also referred to as the boots on the ground. The project forms part of a larger transversal safety plan led by the Department of the Premier. LEAP is an initiative that we are implementing in partnership with the City of Cape Town, and I want to add, Mr. Speaker, also with the national government soon. So we're very far in advance with that plan with the national government. And we have made tremendous progress in setting up basic systems to implement this. This increase was made possible by minimizing the department's budget by 17.9 million. That is, 3 million was transferred to the Department of the Premier for the development of software systems for the prioritized safety projects within the department. The department further surrendered funds to the provincial treasury through the reprioritization of internal projects to contribute 14.9 million towards the safety plan. And in turn, the department has been allocated, and it's so good to hear, the department has been allocated first 130 million in the adjustment budget for 2019-2020 year, 417 million in the 2020-21 year, 350 million in the 21-22 year, and 400 million in the 2022-23 year. 1.3 billion towards the implementation of LEAP over the next 4 years. Honourable Speaker, this budget will make it possible to implement a Premier Safety Plan announced on the 19th of September 2019. As part of this safety plan, each minister has been allocated apex priorities, which they will be personally accountable for and to report on during the Safety Cabinet. My particular apex priorities include: 1, overseeing the training and deployment of additional law enforcement officers and 150 investigators to places and times where and when violent crime happens. In other words, evidence-based approach, Mr. Speaker. 2, working to expand the Chrysalis Youth Academy program. 3, enhancing police oversight. And 4, looking at working to reduce alcohol-related harms, the alcohol-related harms program. And then lastly, implementing the Premier's Boys to Men program. Speaker, I want to say that soon we will take up the suggestion made by, I can't remember, I think it's Member Marie, where we will get every opposition party in a room. And specifically what the Honourable Brett Heron has been saying, we want to get all of them, not only the ANC, every one of the opposition in a room and explain and go through the safety plan in its final form. Speaker,
Order.
Because we don't play political games within the lives, with the lives and safety of our citizens, this DA-led government has reprioritized
Order,
itself
members.
to ensure that
Order,
this province
members.
become a safer place for all who lives in it. And therefore, we don't have one opposition party, we have 5. All of them will be invited. And not the ANC having a monopoly on what they know and what they don't know. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, I would like to draw your attention to Rule 39 and Rule 40, as well as Rule 38 of the Standing Rules. Let us conduct ourselves in such a way that we don't compromise the decorum of the House. We must allow the speakers to be heard, but also we must ensure that other members allow us to be heard. If we want to do justice in the debate, we've got to maintain our noise levels. Please, honourable members. Now I recognize Honourable Kama.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, honourable members of the House, guests in the gallery, staff members from the HOD, up to even a cleaner, shadow MEC Fritz, and the real MEC in absentia, MEC JP Smith. I greet you all this morning. We gather here to look at the adjusted estimates of the provincial revenue and expenditure that were tabled in this House last week. We must appreciate that I entered this legislature, Speaker, very young, but I can see I will be having gray hair when the term ends. I can tell you my mental health is also threatened. The DA has continued to sow confusion in the past few months without fail. This should be attributed to the party's inability to appreciate the complexities of the crime and gangsterism phenomenon in the province. The adjustments made in this budget are proving exactly that point. For you do not need to take money from other departments to ensure that you implement an integrated strategy to fight crime. Nadine Bowers Dutoit from Stellenbosch University stated that one of the most pressing issues in urban ghettos of the Cape Flats is that gangsterism and the discourse of power and powerlessness, that is its lifeblood. Furthermore, she said it is a pandemic that is closely tied to a deprivation trap of poverty, marginalization, isolation, unemployment, and ultimately powerlessness. In my 7 months, Speaker, as a member of the Committee on Safety, I've always been advocating for any plan or strategy to have the factors listed by Bowers as its central pillars. As the ANC, we always maintain that we need an integrated approach that recognizes the importance of community involvement in the fight against crime. Today, to my surprise, Speaker, this government is cutting budgets on sub-programs like safety promotion and community police relations. In other shifts, funds intended for payments of CPFs have been diverted for additional funds required for marketing material in relation to CPFs, AGMs. This is because instead of supporting CPFs which have always complained about lack of sufficient funding for their projects. The MEC is interested on who gets elected into these CPFs. This was evident in his unconstitutional directives which he issued to the CPF's AGM, which were rejected by CPFs and SAPs. Due to fewer accredited neighborhood watches, as well as unaccountability of some and infighting, the department has underspent on transfers to neighborhood watches and has since shifted money for additional funds required for advertising, travel, and subsistence, as well computer hardware. This yet again shows community involvement is not an apex priority for this government. Speaker, through these adjusted estimates, the department has received an overall additional appropriation of 112 million. Funds have been taken away from other critical programs of the department to fund Program 3, Provincial Policing Functions. An additional budget of 130 million rand is made available to fund Premier Windy and MEC JP Smith's safety plan. This is not to mock my good friend MEC Fritz, but his role in what the Premier now calls working document safety plan has merely been reduced to only employing a project manager. All other operations will be conducted and handled by MEC JP. I must say that it is my first time witnessing a government that sets aside millions to fund a working document. There is no safety plan in the Western Cape, but only a working document. I always maintained that the DA uses safety to score cheap political points. On the 17th of September 2019, in front of the Premier, President Cyril Ramaphosa called a joint parliamentary sitting on gender-based violence and femicide to outline government's plans to tackle the scourge. In turn, Premier Windy, who did not want to be outshined, went there to announce a 1 billion rand plan to fight crime. Allow me to take the last few minutes to talk about the so-called safety plan. It has two legs, one being the deployment of law enforcement called boots on the ground, and the second being reducing and preventing violence. The second one is mainly about addressing the underlying causes of crime and violence. Nothing is being done about it. All focus and attention is on the boots on the ground. The first 1,000 recruits will be deployed in the metro and other municipalities will not benefit. The working document is silent on details of recruitment, training, and compensation of these law enforcement officers. As things stand, we don't have a breakdown of the 130 million. We just know it's a transfer to JP Smith, who should decide what he does with it. We cannot support transfer of funds to JP Smith, who runs his very weak army base in the city of Cape Town. Metro Police in the city of Cape Town is consistently attacked, under-resourced, made to work in buildings that even have snakes because it has always spoken against the political meddling and control of JP Smith. It is this JP Smith who chose to only standardize the remuneration of the Metro Police chief to that of other chiefs in other provinces because it's his puppet, but chose not to do so in all other Metro Police members in order to frustrate and suppress that unit. On the contrary, the law enforcement officers who are only trained 3 months and given guns and now expected to go perform a miracle in the 10 high murder precincts in Cape Town are receiving more support because they allow JP Smith to control them through a WhatsApp group. To validate the above, ask him about the law enforcement security plan for those councillors who are in those chambers. They do not have. As the ANC will reject these adjusted estimates for the reasons above, we however, Speaker, want to recognize the work that is done by the departmental officials of community safety, because they try against all odds to come up with a plan. But the problem is that they are led by a wrong person. And we want to also thank the chair. The chair is trying of the committee. All the time we try to hold all the executive accountable. But Speaker, we must say that lastly, the honorable member is exposed. He must take off the mask. This is not our MEC Fritz. This is JP Smith. Thank you very much.
Thank you, honorable member. Honorable members, I now recognize order. Order. I now recognize Honorable Allen.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Through you, I would like to dispel the fear that Member Marais raised regarding spewing venom, as the Honorable Kama is already facing threatening health issues. So I would rather want to dispel the myth and the misconceptions that he has raised. Honorable Speaker, long before we've reached the worst Women's Month in the history of South Africa, the Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape called for increased boots on the ground, not only for our communities to experience a sense of safety, but for every citizen to go about their daily routine, to be economically fit and socially active without worrying about being robbed on a train, to be hit by a stray bullet on the way to school, or for the justice to be served that our innocents so desperately deserve. Yet our plea has fallen on deaf ears, and this came at an unacceptable price. Hence, I would agree that 130 million is simply not enough. But we live in a time where we cannot but always find a way to see that the glass is half full. Hence, from the start, and without hesitation, I wish to express my support for vote 4, because again, safety is everybody's business. The upward adjustment of the budget for the Department of Community Safety, however, unfortunately came at the cost of every other department in the Western Cape, and Provincial Treasury on its own faced unprecedented challenges. Therefore, I wish to commend the Premier for his direction, along with the Minister Albert Fritz and Minister David Maynard for their hard work during the last few months. If anything, the increased investment into provincial safety capacity building shows dedicated responsibility, responsiveness, and accountability. But more importantly, it is elements that we no longer see in government, which is integrity and a commitment to a promise of creating a better future and a safer province for everyone. Under Programme 3, for the period of April 2019 to September 2019, the program spending has been decreased by 3.7 million due to the reduction of advertising and security in the Office of the Police Ombudsman. However, in a meeting with his office, the Standing Committee was reassured of its optimal functioning with regard to various ways in communicating its work to ensure that we provide an accessible complaints operation to contribute to the improved and credible police performance in the Western Cape. An amount of 205 million has been shifted to vote 1 for the development of software systems relating to safety projects to ensure that we have data to roll out our safety plan effectively. Through you, Speaker, to the Honourable Premier, please kindly be advised that we will be doing a follow-up to ensure that we make progress and inform our people in this regard. Furthermore, as Chairperson for Community Safety, I will ensure that we conduct oversight and especially joint oversight visits as safety manifests itself in various portfolios as seen in the shifting of funds in this particular MTF period. We will be embarking on these visits to not only as we reach the end of the financial year, but until the comprehensive safety plan is felt by everybody on the ground. We will ensure that where there is a need, that we interrogate and respond with a respected level of seriousness that does not disregard the pleas of the community. We have been criticized, Speaker, over and over for the tune that the South African Police Service does not fall within the mandate of the provincial government. But the fact is, that it does not, and that is a simple truth, that it does not. Yet we are committed to supplement the services and support where we can. Last week, during a committee meeting on the annual report of SAPS in the Western Cape, it was revealed that service is anticipating a human resource boost in the form of graduate deployments, and we will be watching this development closely. Every effort towards making the Western Cape a safer place must be welcomed and supported without hesitation across each sphere of government and particularly across party lines. I recall not too long ago consensus in this House to prioritize crime in this province. Yet during our debate yesterday, although one is always open to constructive debate, it was as if for a moment we forgot the plead of our people as they filled the streets and marched against violence on the 5th of September 2019. Speaker, I would also like to bring clarity around the definition of a working document in order to help my colleague over there. It is a type of technical report draft of a work in progress. It is a common occurrence to underestimate the importance of a draft, Honourable Kama. It provides the planner a chance to meld his thoughts and to further develop plans instead of ending up with a signed-off plan that misses critical points. And before Member Kama and I was born, I'm not sure if honorable members in this house would be a fan of the television hit series, The A-Team, where they coined the popular phrase that I love it when a plan comes together. I know that was before our time, but we would definitely have to catch up, sir. Furthermore, it is our job to criticize if our people suffer an injustice by the inability of national government to curb debt, corruption and maladministration in order for us to stop accommodating year-on-year budget cuts. I heard that the surrendering, yesterday I also heard that the surrendering of funds is a sin. Yet to me, it would be a sin to let innocent people die at the hands of criminals while we can accommodate needs without compromising on frontline service delivery. But I think we should all agree that we have reached a period of severe financial constraint throughout our entire country, where we all have to learn to budget and to plan a little more critically than before, and to save and to reprioritize where we can. In Afrikaans, there's a saying that goes, "Liever bang Jan as dooie Jan." Thus, in closing, I would like to say that even though financial insecurity of the public purse is a scary reality, as many budgets were cut and that we face challenges in making ends meet, I'd rather have each and every citizen move freely without fear for their lives by building safety capacity in the province. In order for communities to build their own financial security and to thrive socially above being killed by a stray bullet due to a lack of police visibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Allen. In the absence of the EFF, I recognize Honorable Heron.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the problem is not the idea of a safety plan. I think everybody supports a plan that addresses or seeks to address the root causes of crime and increases visible policing. The problem is allocating 130 million rand to the City of Cape Town without a plan. So we don't know if the 130 million rand is informed by operational requirements or if this is some amount that the province was able to cobble together by cutting other budgets. And so it's an arbitrary number. And this is the problem that we have. We have an arbitrary number that is not justified by any plan that shows us that there are operational requirements that meet 130 million rands worth of funding. And so too with the outer year provisions. There is no plan that indicates how those numbers are arrived at and how they will be deployed or allocated or spent. So we have an arbitrary number that we are expected to support based on a working document that is very, very superficial and very, very generic. So we do not have a plan, but we are certainly not opposed to a plan. The Honourable Allen is saying that drafts always precede a plan, and of course they do. But you should not allocate funding based on a draft. Get the plan in place.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Your time is up. Thank you. Honourable Members, now I recognize Honourable Christians.
Speaker, to prioritize crime is not the problem. It's how the DA want to implement this stillborn baby that is the problem. Now let me tell you, Speaker, law enforcement officers is there to enforce municipal bylaws. Metro Police is appointed under the South African Police Act. And they come to our standing committee to come and give a plan, an annual performance plan each and every year. Why can't we strengthen and beef up that? Because now you have a Metro Police that have police real powers to combat crime. So it's not, the problem is not looking at prioritizing crime. It is how the DA want to have law enforcement officers, 130 million down the drain. It will go down the drain. 1.3 billion will go down the drain because this law enforcement officers course will not work. They are there to enforce municipal bylaws and not do police work. Why don't we then, they come back and account and we can then tell them to come appear with the annual report to account to the standing committee. This is a failed plan.
When the Speaker or any presiding officer says the time is up, it means your time has ended. Now, thank you, Honourable Christians. Your apology is accepted, Honourable Member. May I now recognize Honorable Murray?
Baie dankie, Speaker. Minister Fritz, u is 'n briesievakslig. Jy praat die taal van die gewone man. Probeer niemand beïnvloed met jou hoë Engels nie. En jy praat, as die mense sê strafmisdadigers, ek sien in die koerant, hulle sê hierso, Wes Fritz sê, verkrachters en wat er moeilijk skuldig bevind is, moet nie op parool vrygelaat word nie. You've got guts that nobody else so far has shown me they've got in this house. On that side of the house, I mean. So I say thank you. You talk about boots on the ground. Fine. But I want to know whose feet will be in the boots. I don't care if it's a black foot or a white foot or a colored foot. He must be properly trained and he must be people of incredible integrity. Nelson Mandela said, I don't care whether the cat is white or whether the cat is black, as long as he catches the mouse.
Thank you. Honorable Member, your time is up. Thank you very much. I wanted to hear the cat, so I'm glad you finished that part. Thank you very much, Honorable Murray. Honorable members, I'm hearing that there's a complaint about the aircon, so that is being sorted out now. Yeah. Members are saying it's cold. Yeah, we're sorting that out. Honorable members, order. Now I recognize, in the absence of Honorable Brancase, I recognize the Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to say to the Honourable Marais, to start with the end, thank you for those nice words. And I think our philosophy and our policy is very, very much that the best person whose feet must go into those boots and properly trained. And I think that's the point. And what Mr. Kama can't get into his head is that when we work intergovernmentally, you work with national government and local government. And I know you spoke about Ghost yesterday. I think Mr. Kama has seen Ghost during the day. You know, he sees JP Smith as the MSc. It's one of those Ghost MScs. So that's the one problem with that dictum. So what we will continue to do, what the ANC can't get into the heads, so what they can't do, is to implement. And we will show them in this case that we will go and implement the plan. And I want to immediately address, and I really take serious what Honorable Brent Harris, Heron is also saying, sorry, Brent Heron is saying, that I can assure you, Honorable Member, we will not dump money anyway. That's precisely the point why we are insisting. And our technical teams are working with the city side and outside on finalizing the implementation plan, the project plan. And I think that's the point. So we have the framework, and let me just suggest that our plan is so incredibly evidence-based. And let me give you the one example, because we have two areas where we implemented the neighborhood safety people. One, not just they don't enforce municipal at all. They focus on safety in Bonteheuwel. And I want to say how we've seen the reduction in the murder rate in Bonteheuwel specifically. Now, the same plan, because of the wideness of the area of Delft, didn't work. And therefore, that's some of the lessons we have learned. And therefore, our research shows the methodology we should use. And that's all. And I really want to say to all members, and specifically, I'm talking about other members, not only the ANC, and I emphasize that, not that I'm not having an issue with them, but to have that workshop where we can work and say, and really give back to every member of the opposition to say this is the plan. But we just want to finish it quickly, and that. So the problem with the ANC, you see...
Order, honourable members, honourable minister, please address the speaker.
Sorry, Speaker. I'm sorry about it. But Honourable Speaker, the problem with the ANC and my dear friend, Honourable Nkondlo, is that the ANC always have the static plan. And then they force it into a square peg into a round hole, and it never fits in. And therefore all their problems are failing. And then they start calling names about MSc this and MSc. I've actually far more respect, Speaker, for Honourable Kama, and I'm actually disappointed in what I heard today, because we normally, in the committee and everywhere we talk and we work in a collaborative way, but I understand when you have to talk in front of TV, you know, when he's on TV, unfortunately, he must make stuff and politicize the issue. That's the fundamental problem. Honorable Christians, I think, I really want to say to you, let us give this a chance. It's not law enforcement. It is under, and remember what the police minister signed off, giving us the right to have a whole lot of trained peace officers. Is a very, and I don't think he realized what he signed off, but I think we have it. So I can assure you it's far beyond just law enforcement. It's really trying to make an impact, even if our in-law, what they always accuse us, the ANC, because they too are pathetic to implement policing in this province. And even if we don't have to see how can we push the boundaries to make our people safer in this province. And I want to say to Mr. Honorable Regan Allen, thank you. You know, what our members, and I think one day we must actually get all that information off how members on a daily basis are communicating with us on the trains, on cable thefts, along the railway lines, in Netrecht, how they come under attack. Young people from our communities who's giving up almost their lives to safeguard us. And I think sometimes we must actually perhaps do site visits to those sites to see young people 4 o'clock in the morning stopping criminals, stealing, and making the economy dysfunctional by stealing cable, you know, along the railway line, Praza. And Praza, the national institution, is sitting there and looking at it. And it says, Honorable Speaker, Praza sitting, watching it, and those, you know, that agreement with the, yeah, because you're part of them. You're part of the failure. That's the problem. And you know, our whole central line has been made dysfunctional. And the national government is just looking on, Praza's looking on, and when we do something, they complain, they criticize. I also want to say that the 130 million, it's a start. Remember, we have over 4 years. It will be augmented. It will be augmented all the time. We also want to really, Mr. Speaker, we really want to.
Honorable members.
We really want to. Speaker, we want
Honorable
to
Minister,
really
please proceed.
welcome the issue around oversight, proper oversight. Because I think, and I really want to welcome that please do oversight so that we can get the stuff implemented and all of us work in a collaborative way. You know, we had an attack on the N1 2 days ago, this past weekend. Again, you know, our national government is nowhere to be found. Again, we must jump in. They're nowhere to be found. They are a waste of time. That's what they are. And I want to agree with the Honourable Member Allen. What the ANC is allowing our people is to be dooie and nie bang jane nie. So all our people are dead, dying at this rate, and therefore our people are dead. They are dead Jans, you know, Jan, Johns, and instead of bang Jans. And then lastly, Mr. Kama, I'm really disappointed in you know, he's a man who is young, who's a very, very capable intellectual. Unfortunately, the opposite was seen this morning in the House because of political, you know, political populism. But I want to say to him, the gangsterism, and we concur with all the academics. You know, academics are just academics. They stay at universities and they have seminars. But we concur. The whole issue around gangsterism and the power of gangs and poverty, and when people are disempowered, that they didn't take the gap. Therefore, we are changing it. That's the reason why we're changing it. And I mean, a man with intellectual capability like Aziz should have noticed that, should have seen it. But unfortunately, Honourable Speaker, I feel sorry for he's captured, you know, he's intellectually captured by the, he's completely captured. I want to also just lastly say that, and I said the issue around, that as a project, we will also work, Deputy Speaker, we will work with the national government. We are meeting at a very high level on the 10th with national government. And I want to say we will continue to work with national. We will also work with the provincial, local government. And we will work with all of them to get a plan that is better together for this province. And it will be a plan, Honorable Ing, it will be a plan that comes together and will be better together for every citizen of this province. And lastly, I want to thank my HOD, I want to thank our senior officials for the work, and I want to thank JP. There's no, why must I apologize? Thank you, JP, for doing the work. And thank you, Minister Becky Trele, because we will all work together, even though this ANC government or opposition don't want to work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, honorable members. Thank you, honorable minister. Honorable members, thank you. Is there a point of order, honorable the leader of the opposition?
Yes.
All
Speaker,
right.
thank you. It's a point of order. I'd refer you to the rules on page 11 under definitions, where a point of order is described as a matter related to the procedure, practice, or operation of the House, or a complaint of unparliamentary conduct or behaviour on the part of another member, which a member is entitled to raise during the sitting of the House or committee when seeking guidance or a ruling on the matter of the presiding officer. Now, Speaker, we respect the ruling that you've made, but we want to bring to your attention, that in regard to the conduct of the Chief Whip of the majority party, we believe that having looked at Hansard for the last 5 years, from 2014 to 2019, which indicates that the order that has been established in the discussion of all budget votes and all adjustment appropriate vote, the order of Minister, Chairperson of Committee, Opposition has been followed. Essentially what we've witnessed here today, and we'd like a ruling on this matter, whether you are prepared to consider an investigation into this matter, that order and convention which was established for both budgets and adjustment has been summarily, without consultation with the programming authority, changed by email. Now, we regard this as a serious breach and unparliamentary behaviour by the Chief Whip, and bringing this matter to your attention, we have the evidence here of all of the order points. We would like you to actually acknowledge to come back to this House, having studied Hansard for both the budget votes of the last 5 years and the adjustments, and come to this House with a ruling. I so move.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Speaker,
Thank
point
you,
of order.
honorable. Wait, Chief Whip. Thank you. On order, honorable members. Thank you, honorable the leader of the opposition. I have made a ruling on this specific matter. And I do, however, want to note that if there is a matter that the honorable the leader of the opposition wants to bring to the attention of the Speaker, that the Speaker must be approached in that regard, and that the Speaker will investigate using the available mechanism in this Parliament. Can we then, on that note, the Chief Whip?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Also, having studied the Hansard of the 6th Parliament, I will just remind members of this House that the ANC responded after the Premier in the SOPA. In the 2 DA debates, the ANC followed the DA Speaker in the introduction of the debate. In the ANC debate, the DA followed the ANC Speaker who introduced the debate. In the NCOP debate, the DA opened, the ANC followed. So that has been the convention in the 6th Parliament.
Order, honourable members.
That is my first point, and then my point of order is under Rule 66(5), which states that a member who is aggrieved may not challenge a ruling in the House, and there are particular avenues in which the leader of the opposition may follow. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, honourable members, thank you. Please take your seat, honourable the Deputy Chief Whip. Honourable members, I've made a ruling on this matter, and this is the same sitting where I made the same ruling. So we cannot revisit the same ruling in the same sitting. Let us respect the rules of this House. Let us do so that the House is orderly. I'm not taking any other speaker on this matter. We are now going to proceed with the business of the day. May we please proceed? Can the...
And that's a point of order.
What are you raising on, Honourable Mitchell?
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Speaker, I'm rising on
that is an
Rule
unrelated matter.
59(2), where the Honourable Leader of the Opposition cast aspersions on the integrity of the chief whip of the opposition, of the majority party, and I want you to rule on it. There's a mechanism where he can use a. I want you to rule.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Deputy Chief Whip. What is the point that you are raising? What is it that the honourable member said?
If the leader of the opposition has an issue with the integrity or casting aspersions on the integrity of the chief whip, he must do so through a substantive motion as covered in Rule 59.2.
All right. May honourable members order. Order, honourable members. Now that is a point of order, honourable, the leader of the opposition. I would like to hear from yourself, honourable member, on the exact point that is raised by the honourable, the deputy chief whip of the majority party.
Thank you, Speaker. I quoted for you the definition of a point of order, and I was rising on a point of order which says clearly that if one believes that there was behavior on the part of another member, right, of unparliamentary conduct or behavior, I was rising on that point of order, given that, in my view, the chief whip has summarily changed the convention of this House, which I regard as unparliamentary conduct. So that is, in terms of the rules, the point of order that I raised. It's a criticism in regard to my interpretation of her conduct of breaking a convention in this House without discussing it with the program committee. But you've made a ruling,
Okay.
and I accept your ruling.
All right, please take your seat, honourable members. May we please proceed? Honourable the Deputy Chief Whip of the Majority Party. Is that a point of order?
Point of order.
I recognize you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The Honourable Dugmore is correct in terms of point 66. However, what he failed to recognise is point 66.5, which says a member who is aggrieved may not challenge a ruling in the House. That member should follow the process of writing to the Speaker, who must then convene a rules committee within a reasonable time.
Please take your seat, Honourable Minister. Please take your seat.
So there is an option for the
Minister,
Honourable
please take
Dugmore.
your seat. Please take your seat. I have already made this point. I have already made this point. And the House... honourable members, may we please allow the proceedings to go unhindered as intended. Thank you, honourable members. And let us please assist the presiding officers here. It's going to be a long day, but we can make it a very productive one if we work together. Now, that concludes the debate on vote 4. I would like the secretary to read the vote.